All right, welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I am Mind Runner. I'm super excited for my guest at this time. And to introduce her, I've got to go to the footage. She is the Black Dahlia herself, the Chainsaw Queen. She is Paige Collett. Paige, welcome to Mental Health Mondays. I feel like we just talked like a couple days ago.
Yeah, it's so crazy. It does seem like a couple days ago, but that's what happens when you're just the heart wants what it wants. Like good friends and positivity. It's like, or it could quite literally have been a couple days ago.
Yeah, right, exactly. Could have been like last Thursday, but that's like when good friends pick up where they left off. It could be years.
It's like we can just pick up like old friends,
Exactly. So excited again. Those of you that also keep up with Mission Pro Wrestling know that we had a nice chat. Paige was, the Black Dahlia was my guest on Mission Pro Spotlight. But we were diving into so much interesting territory. It was really jumping into Mental Health Mondays. And again, my friends that aren't wrestling fans, again, this isn't a wrestling podcast, but Paige and I were getting into some really, really awesome conversations about mental health and about dealing with pain and undiagnosed pain as well. So we're going to definitely dive into that, but also a lot of the psychology, and as we've talked about before on this show, the like psychology, the parallels with like wrestling and like soap operas and movies and how how art imitates life. And there's a lot of things we can learn from that. So first of all, Paige, welcome. Thank you for coming on to Mental Health Mondays. Doing back-to-back podcast, sort of, it feels like. But first, just a little bit, you are now getting back into the ring. You are you were trained by Rikishi. We talked about that on the Spotlight show, but we started talking about the condition CRPS, and that was a condition that it started during your training. Is that what happened, or was there an accident that happened?
Yeah. So backstory, guys, I was a model, actor, dancer, and then I ended up branching out and getting mentored by Bobby Blaze. Then I trained for just under a year under Funaki, and then just under a year under Rikishi. And when I was out at Rikishi's, I was sleeping out of my vehicle, of course, because school is expensive, LA is expensive, and me and my friend Nathaniel, he goes by Nate Hewitt, Evil Nate, the Killbilly.
I love that.
Yeah. So he's from Kentucky, so he can pull off the gimmick. The Appalachian Mountains specifically. But anyway, we were both, paying our dues in wrestling as you do, and slept out of our vehicle and trained under Rikishi, and then it's just I ended up. So CRPS is the sickness of the nervous system, and the way it's activated is through injury, whether it's a simple, sprained ankle, or whether it's something like me being in a wrestling ring out in LA and taking a move wrong and end up tearing my ligaments in both my feet. Oof. So I ended up tearing both ligaments in my feet. And if that was just it, I would have, had surgery and got better and was out for like probably a year. But this story, unfortunately, is this spring made 7 years since I was put in that wheelchair. And CRPS, there is no cure. It is very deadly. It's nicknamed, trigger warning, it's nicknamed the suicide disease. And that's how severe this sickness is. And we can go into detail about it if you'd like.
Yeah, definitely, because you're talking about the suicide disease. We were talking a little bit about a couple of things. One, that sometimes you don't know you don't realize what other people are going through, because a lot of people put on a brave face, or you
Right.
don't, a lot of times pain doesn't always have a physical manifestation. I mean, a burn
Right.
victim, you can see, there's scars, but there are some people that have scars, on their feet or scars somewhere else. But like there's the physical, the pain of the nervous system so insidious because it
Yeah.
is your pain receptors that are hurting, right?
Exactly. So if people research it, or if people are aware of it already, or if you're in the medical field and have been educated on it, it's one of those things where it is of the nervous system. And basically think of it like, if you know that sensation if you're on a roller coaster and your stomach drops, or basically like, or when you get scared, you're watching a scary movie and you go like that, like your nervous system is like, you feel it, you activate it. So this is me dumbing it down, guys, because I'm being educated on it. I might have been sick with this for 7 years, but I'm newly diagnosed, and that's a part of the crazy story as well. It's totally unfair, but I'll go into detail with that in a minute. Mm-hmm. But basically, CRPS is like, the way I say it in simpler terms is a light switch is switched on and it's never switched off. So the original injury was a torn muscle, but then the pain signals that have been being sent to my brain every single second for 7 years it doesn't match torn ligaments. My brain is saying I'm dying. And then my whole entire nervous system is in shock and going into panic mode. And the way that, like I said, I dumb it down because I'm not a doctor. I don't know they're Latin words,
Yeah.
But basically, CRPS is not only non-curable, but very lethal. It's your body is constantly being attacked and your mind is saying you're dying. And then unfortunately people are killing themselves.
I mean, sounds like it's your nervous system thinks you're constantly being stabbed, like in a spot or something like that.
Exactly. And that's good terminology because it is stabbing, burning pains. Like I make jokes about my situation because that's how I cope. It's not funny, but that's how I stay alive, guys. I make jokes about being crippled. I make jokes about being the handicapped girl. That's how I cope. So when I talk about my sickness and tell people what I'm feeling, the sensations I feel, I joke and compare it to horror movies. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like Michael Myers just got me,
Yeah.
It's like, man, the big knife in Scream? Yep, right through the foot just now, guys. Yeah, so
but you gotta have some levity to. You gotta add some levity to it though, because otherwise
it's politically correct as fuck. But it's my sickness, my body, and this is how I survive. So I make light of it. So so the way the doctors have explained it is they pull out the pain chart and, like, man, so I'm just gonna go into that part if you're okay with it. Like,
and I'll pull this up while we're talking because this is what really opened my eyes to what you're going through. I mean, I wasn't trying to downplay your pain at all, but when you showed me this chart, the McGill pain scale.
That's the name of it. I can never remember that name. I call it the Miguel or something, but it's
McGill. I've heard it both ways.
It's
but
the doctor pain chart, guys. It's the scientific doctor pain chart.
It's just the more scientific version of what, on a scale of 1 to 10, where's your pain? And of course, pain is relative. But I'm looking at this, and I'm looking at kidney stones, unprepared childbirth, amputation of a digit. I'm looking at all this stuff, even chronic migraines. I've had a couple of these before, but you've got all these things. And then at the top, you've got CRPS.
Guys, it's okay. It's what, like, I don't want, it is one thing to have this sickness. It sucks.
Yeah.
But it is, excuse my language, but I gotta say it like this. It's my truth.
Absolutely.
It's fucking cruel.
Mm-hmm.
It's unfair. that and there's others, but I had to be sick with this for so long, and to go undiagnosed, I shouldn't be alive. This isn't a joke. Like, not saying my life matters or anything. I'm just an ant in an ant hill, you know, like I shouldn't be alive. Like, that's real. That's the best way to explain it, and being very impolitically correct. When people get this sickness, they get on pills.
Yeah.
And then everyone knows the impolitically stereotype of what happens, you know. So when you're experiencing the pain of CRPS, which is the most painful pain a human can feel, it's far worse than childbirth. Like when I mention my pains, I joke and compare it to scary movies, but the doctors say if someone has to have an emergency amputation or get their limbs amputated, you're in more pain than they are.
Yeah.
Like, if no medicine, no anesthesia, a woman goes into childbirth, you're in more pain than she is. And it's like, this seems blasphemous. And then they get even more blasphemous, and they're like, heard of cancer? Well, this is like a cancer of your nervous system. So it's like, so what are you guys saying? And then it's basically, you're constantly feeling like you're dying, and it's true. Your body is so you might not be, but
your body's convinced.
It's responding, and so I'm exhausted. I'm trying to breathe, but it takes more effort. I'm trying to walk, it takes more effort. I'm trying to stand, it takes more effort. And that's just the exhaustion. Then there's the mental health that's involved.
Yeah.
Fuck. Like, and I'm not outing her, because like, it's very also unpolitically correct, but she did use correct terminology in the stance. But one of my doctors said, like, literally, how are you alive? You know, like, how did you
statistically you should have offed yourself by now.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, let me ask you, like, because it sounds, how long have you been living with this pain before you were diagnosed?
6.5 years.
So for about 6.5 years, you didn't know what was going on?
That's one of the cruelest parts of it. It's cruel to have the sickness. It sucks having the sickness. There's no cure. There's nothing that helps. If you Google this, literally the things that help, like the treatments, literally are find loved ones, surround yourself with a support system, find a therapist, get on opioids, the liquid forms, the IVs, and the pills. That's what they say to combat this.
Here's a bottle of Jack Daniels. Go knock yourself out, literally. Wow.
Stay alive. And it's like, are you guys, like, Google it. It's literally, those are the treatments. And then, to be fair, and then there's the experimental surgeries, like the spine surgeries. And these are experimental because there's no long-term studies on them. And in these new surgeries, they're putting microchips in our spine to deactivate, like, to send signals to our brain to say, you're okay, you're safe, you're fine. Stop feeling what you're feeling, you're safe. Because our bodies are in panic, and it's like, oh my God, I'm burning alive. Oh my God, someone's putting a hot iron to my feet. Like, every night when I go to bed, you know when your grandma would iron your grandpa's shirts and stuff, those irons?
Yeah.
Well, it feels like someone puts that on the bottom of my feet every night, and I'm like screaming, and I take a melatonin just to go to bed.
Wow.
That's my reality, you guys.
And that's what's so cool, because it's like your nervous system is designed to tell you when something's actually causing you pain. Yeah, that's that stimulus response. But it's lying to you.
It's like a malfunction. This sounds like something out of a Marvel or DC movie. It sounds like a cryptid disease or some shit. Like something from, like, Aliens or whatever. Like, I literally I was like, there's no way. Like, even me experiencing this, like, okay, this is what's so crazy. this is what's so freaking unfair. I didn't just sit on my butt for like 6.5 years and just like, twiddle my thumbs. I had 4 surgeries to correct the nerves and to correct the, we did like nerve blocks. Hey, Winston, can you get him, please? Sorry, my dog. He's
all good.
Stressed. I stress him out, and he's here to help me. But I did the 4 foot surgeries throughout the years, and to block the nerves, to correct the nerves, and then to release the muscles. But this is the sad thing, guys. And to be fair, my doctors didn't know, but I went through 12 doctors in 6 years, and I'm talking from regular family doctors to, sorry, that's very distracting. I went to regular family doctors to chiropractors to foot specialists to other foot specialists to sports medicine doctors that work with the NFL and they specialize in athletic foot injuries.
Wow.
I went to them all in Indianapolis, Cincinnati. I went to all the cities and I went to every single, like I didn't stop, and it takes like forever to see these specialists. It takes like 3 months to get into this person and then 2 months to get in to see what they want an MRI. So it takes 3 weeks to get an MRI back, and then they're done with the MRI. Let's get all the X-rays and then the EKG with the nerve one, whatever that one's called, and then. So 6.5 years of my life spent in a wheelchair. Like I spent almost 3 of those years in a wheelchair until I was, even though I continued the path on trying to see what was wrong, I never gave up hope that they could figure out what was wrong with me. I behind the scenes took it upon myself to learn how to walk again. And I was like, you know what? Wow. I'm just going to get out of this wheelchair. And the thing is, I wasn't a hydroplegic. I wasn't, like, people need to understand that when you see a wheelchair, that doesn't mean someone can't stand and walk. It means that they're disabled. And a lot of people are cruel and mean and make fun of and film people without their consent, and they'll see people in a wheelchair get up and miraculously like walk to their vehicle and all. And it's like, what sicknesses does that person have? Because they could have just had surgery, or they could have arthritis, or they could have CRPS, which is the most painful pain a human can feel, and they're a warrior for even going out and about in public.
Yeah. They don't understand it. And I can understand just like a knee-jerk reaction. Granted, you have a choice when you see somebody miraculously get out of a wheelchair. You have a choice to film that or not. But I think that there is a lot of people that are trying to, catch scammers. But what it is this is a case where they're not aware. They don't understand. And what this is kind of what I want to ask you now is I wanted to really have you on here is I don't see a whole lot of people talking about it. And that's why like we need to spread awareness of it so that it's much more understood. And we've talked a lot about Mental Health Mondays. 20 years ago, not even 20 years ago, we couldn't even really talk much about mental health, let alone a lot of the other things, because we're constantly making new discoveries and we're starting to understand more about the human body, the physical and mental health, or physical health. So I understand like what we need to make progress with that, but it's like I think we definitely as a society need to have a lot more compassion with those kind of things. We never know. You never know what someone's going through.
Story. Yeah. And I feel like a lot of people are insensitive, and also mind your business, but then also have your opinion, but don't film someone. And so when I was in the wheelchair, I was in the wheelchair because I couldn't stay. Like, it was so bad. Like, the pain was so bad. When I taught myself how to walk again, it was I had to have one of the medical bedside toilets because I couldn't even go to the bathroom. I was literally on bed rest. So when I was like, heck, F it, I'm gonna learn how to walk again, I was laying there in the pain. It's not just because I stand on it. It's not just because I walk on it. It's not just because I'm on it for long periods of time. That makes it worse.
Aggravates.
But CRPS is even touch. I couldn't wear socks. It hurt me and made me scream. sucks. To this day, because I'm not in full remission, I've pushed myself, I think, halfway there because I'm not sitting here screaming. I just feel the pain and I can push it out. I can desensitize that level pain right now. But later on today, when, you know, like say I go and kill it out, like go to the gym and have a hard day at work and then go and kill it in the gym, then I'm like screaming and a lot of pain and I need to like calm down and like, you know, go on autopilot. But
Yeah.
it messes with your mental health, that's for sure.
What got you to do that? What got you to decide, you know what, I'm not going to be a victim of this? What pushed you to take control and force yourself to learn how to walk again and fight this thing rather than giving up?
So you guys got to think, I was undiagnosed at this time. I didn't know it was the world's most painful pain. So you guys can think I'm brave, a hero, whatever. Would I have gotten out of that wheelchair if I knew what I was feeling was the world's most painful pain? Would I have? Would I got in my head and been like, holy shit? Because it's the validation. I did feel the pain. I still do feel, but that level of pain that I was feeling, I was screaming and crying and vomiting and passing out. I couldn't stand in the shower. I couldn't walk to the toilet. I couldn't stand and bathe my body. I was on a sponge bathing myself. I had to have mates, assistants to help me. I was literally using a bedside toilet. That's how bad the pain was. So without even knowing what I had, I just knew it was this or death.
It's interesting. Do you think that not knowing made you stronger? Like being diagnosed have made you feel more hopeless?
Yeah, like that. I had no other, like I had no other choice. Like I'm poor, you know. Like I'm just a nobody wrestler that became and politically correct. Sorry guys, but I'm crippled the rest of my life. I'm sick. Everyone else with CRPS for the most part live off the government or on pain meds and they're surviving and God love them. And I'm not like, oh, I'm better or oh, I'm stronger. No, I'm trying to bring awareness to the sickness, make people believe in it, understand how bad it is. So my brothers and sisters that have basically a noose around their necks don't give up, and maybe we can bring so much awareness we can find a cure, you know. So
yeah,
but back to the question though, is before I was diagnosed and I was battling this, I knew it was the worst pain I had ever felt. I knew that I felt like I was dying. I knew it felt like someone was killing me and lighting a flame on my feet. I knew that there was something wrong, but after I had to learn how to walk again twice, but the first time I did it, it took me a solid year. It wasn't pretty, guys. It wasn't, oh, I have medical insurance and I have a medical team on standby pumping me with pain pills and helping me learn how to walk again. Even if we don't know what it is, at least they're helping me. No, I was like, you're on your own, kid. Good luck. And after my first 2 surgeries and they released my muscles, this is the sick part. We didn't know it. But any trauma to my sick area can spread. So when the original injury of torn ligaments was on the bottom of my feet, after having my first 2 foot surgeries to release my ligaments to, you know, because you got to think, take away the nerve disease. You know, I was already sick. They didn't know it, so they're like, oh, this poor wrestler, she has torn ligaments, let's make her better. So they did the ligament surgery.
Yeah. Which aggravated it.
And it aggravated it and it spread. So imagine, I've had surgeries before in my life. I've been an athlete my whole life. I've had injuries, you know. Imagine coming out of surgery and screaming. And I didn't even take ibuprofen. I didn't even take Tylenol. I was an advocate, actually, anti even those regular pills.
Yeah.
Like I was anti pills like my entire life. And like I felt weird taking vitamins for the longest time. Like it was just how I've been raised. And when I came out of there, I was begging them to give me meds. I begged them. I was like, there's something wrong. There's something wrong. I was saying that. I was like, no. And I was experiencing like the full max of CRPS at that point, and it was bad.
Were you living in your? There was a time you said that you were living in your van because of cost. Were you living in your van during all of this?
This whole entire time, I was homeless. So I was homeless in Kentucky, where Nathaniel's from. We were homeless in Pikeville, Kentucky, for the summer, and then we went to Funaki's out in San Antonio. We drove all the way down there, and thankfully we were able to house sit this nurse's house. Like, you can house sitter, so we were able to stay in that home and watch her house and pay rent like we were renting. We did that during Funaki's, and then when we went out to LA, we were homeless. So this is the timeline: boom, boom, boom. So then when I got sick out in LA and injured, we drove back to Ohio, and this is where I have family, and I was like, listen guys, I need help. And I am growing a relationship with my mom as we speak, but there's a lot of trauma and damage there that I don't want to talk about. But I basically have been homeless this whole entire time, and I've been bouncing from, I finally have my own place and I'm doing well, but during the darkest times in the wheelchair, I was still homeless, and I had to live out of like a blue building that had no like electricity or no access to no running water or anything. It was really like a blue shed with the air conditioning attached to the outside of it. And
wow.
And when I learned how to walk again, my friend Nathaniel had to drive on these country back roads in this farmland that we're at, and he had to drive from our shoot job 45 minutes, depending on traffic, an hour, get me, drive me back into town, so another hour, and I would go to Planet Fitness just to learn how to walk again.
Wow.
So when I learned how to walk again, it was I was there for like 30 minutes, and I was screaming and vomiting and crying. It was awful. But by the time I got to the end of the year, and I have video footage because I knew, and even in the moment, as I was dealing with this pain and thought I was going to die from it, let alone kill myself to escape it, I knew if I survived this, I would need this footage because no one was ever going to believe this. But by the time my 30 minutes at the beginning of the year, learning how to walk again at freaking Planet Fitness, no help from doctors.
Yeah.
Just me and Nate. By the end of the year, I was in Planet Fitness on that treadmill for 10 hours.
Wow.
But like, treadmill shut off and shit. So what I would do is pretend I was at like my shoot job, and I'd get on the treadmill, and I think it shuts off after like an hour and 5 minutes or something because it does a cool down. But I would be on that for an hour and then have to start it over. But I would walk for two hours, stand and walk for 2 hours, then go take like a bathroom break and get water or granola bar or whatever I packed, go back on it, do another 2 hours, take a lunch break. So I would treat it like I was at work.
That was going to say, this is your job is to learn how to walk. Yeah.
Yeah. So no medical marijuana. I didn't believe in it. I thought it killed your brain. No free Nate. Thanks, Nate. Nate just called me a badass. Thank you. I don't need the praise because I was just like, I had no other choice. I had to learn how to walk again so I can go and work and pay bills. And I always had the dream in the back of my mind to wrestle again. And I'm hopeful to do it. And my doctor, like, is amazed that I was alive. And one of the first things that she said besides that was, how's your brain? She's like, I'm so worried about your brain, because there are studies about brain damage. Like,
yeah.
Like, think
you're
about
constantly
the trauma.
Getting that, if you're constantly getting those pain receptors.
Yeah.
Like, that's
like,
that's
it's
traumatizing.
And again, politically correct, but there are soldiers that get hurt and are developing a certain sickness, and there are studies being done on them, and they are saying, their words, the PTSD of CRPS is similar to the PTSD of war.
And there could be some parallels. I mean, we don't know. I mean, if this is just something
the soldiers are saying this, you know, and then we have CRPS people saying, you know, like there's CRPS people that are soldiers that are saying this about the PTSD. And then there are people with CRPS that have survived cancer. They're like, you know, they're right. And it's like, dang. Like me, I've never been to war. I can't attest. I've never been, I never had, you know, breast cancer or whatever. I can't attest. But they are. And their voices need to be heard because this is scary.
Imagine our soldiers coming back from war and actually having an undiagnosed CRPS. I mean, I can just imagine.
They need to hear that. They need, and this is Memorial Day weekend. They need, like, this is a good subject. They need, like, because, and I'm not going to say too much because it is private, but it is nicknamed the suicide disease for a reason. And you can, one of my girlfriends, and again, I'm not going to say too much, but she twisted her ankle and it spread. It spread so much.
Wow.
And there's a soldier, and that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah.
So people need to know.
And it's kind of like, it's, you know, it's like the physical manifestation. Like, you don't know what people are going through from, you know, there's not, the signs aren't always clear.
And then a note that people need to take is be nice. Because I have met the most vicious, when I was young and healthy and bebopping around, there was mean people and stuff, but I was just so vibrant and I was able to bob and weave, I guess. But when I got put in that wheelchair and I was experiencing this pain and not having anything to sedate me, and I was just like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. People were vicious. They don't care you're in a wheelchair or they don't care you're in two hard casts trying to walk and limp. They don't care that you're in chronic pain. They don't believe it. Their pain's far worse. Like, you become the world's punching bag when you become handicapped.
Why do you think people get like that? Or why is there
obviously their childhood trauma and their life traumas, and I've noticed that people project a lot, and that's probably how they were treated, and they want to treat people like trash, like they've been treated.
Hurt people, right?
Yeah, of course. And I mean, I don't think it's not right. It's like, you need a hug, bro. Like, okay, but then there's also sorry, I dropped my medicine. And then but then there's also my side. Okay, so this is where it comes like hypocritical in a way. I always believed that if you're a kid in a school ground and someone's bullying you, and then they just punch you, okay, stand up and punch them back. Like, the audacity to even physically harm me. So I was always taught, you know, if someone has the audacity, you stand up for yourself. So that's where it becomes hypocritical, because it's like, okay, you want to be a bully? I'll be a bully. So that's the one side where I'm like, if there's a bad person, make sure you shoulder check them. But sometimes that's not the best thing to do, maybe. But I know there's a lot of people that make fun of me, you know, for being handicapped and not able to wrestle. And it's like, I have a medical condition for 7 years now, not allowing me to wrestle, and you think that's funny?
Have you developed a bit more of a sharper wit with comebacks to people that try to bully? Like, they'll try to say something, you're like, yeah, well, at least I'm not walking around. At least I'm not medically diagnosed with tiny dick, or, you know, something like that.
Tiny? Did you say tiny dick?
Yeah. Like,
are we allowed to cuss now, sir?
Absolutely. This is Mental Health Mondays. Everything goes. This is.
Why did you say that? Shit, fuck.
Well,
man,
I wanted to at least.
I have a lot of making up to do. God damn it! Here I am in a conservative outfit, thinking I'm like, God damn it.
Well, hey, this is you know, we're past the 10-minute mark on YouTube now, so we're.
Well, I was a good girl in the last one. So listen. So. Yeah, I think immediately just give it back to them, you know, and it's like, and this crippled would never even fuck you, so.
Exactly.
You know, like, well, that makes two big titty bitches here, you know what I mean? Like those are my comebacks, is vulgarity and, Like I don't know.
It's like I have the tits, but you're the bitch or something like that, or
yeah, or if it's yeah. So honestly, I the way I handle bullies is the shoulder check them, obviously, but it's like my life mission now. Unfortunately, I never asked to be sick the rest of my life. I would much to the haters, I would have loved to have for 7 years now just been grinding and wrestling and running all over the country and all over the DMs I've had. Like there's other countries, there's so many promotions, good and bad, every level. Yep. And I haven't been able to accept anything because I've been sick.
Has anybody asked you for $500 for you to fart naked?
Fart naked. Oh my God. I know that was cyberbullying, but that was witty. I honestly, I get shit like that was a serious subject, but in my DMs, I had the similar thing. So I laugh at that shit. You gotta laugh at it. Like it's hilarious.
Well, that's another thing too, because something that it's one of those things where a lot of us guys, we don't see that because being a woman on social media versus being a man, I'm sure you get some DMs that you're just like,
I once had someone offer me $5,000 to masturbate on camera.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's fun.
It's like, who would ever want to see that, you fucking weirdo?
Well, I mean, sometimes you get to that. I mean, it's hard because sometimes you're like, well, I got to pay some bills. But then it's out there.
I did it. No. I didn't say I did it. I'm a fucking nerd, man.
I get it.
I think I said no, and then I went and watched Star Wars. Like, what the fuck?
Of course, you could always send them a pictures of like a cow's vagina or something. And
I've actually photoshopped I photoshopped myself topless once and put Nate's nipples on my nipples once.
That's awesome.
It's like enjoy that jerk off sesh.
Yeah. Oh. Then you go, haha. Now you're.
Well, I only send that to the pieces. I don't only send that to the jerks, the guys that are mean. Like they get to jerk off to Nate's nipples.
Nate seems to be a rock for you. Like seems to be a cornerstone.
Totally. Oh man. We've been kids together. Like I got involved with the business when I was 18, and he's just 2 years older than me. And he grew up like as a wrestling fan. He grew up like the stereotype. Nate said Mark, but he was the baby in diapers watching it at his grandma's house. Like he's been there since diapers, and so he was involved with like local like hot dog and handshake companies all throughout Kentucky. And no shame, we need them.
Yeah, that's where everybody's. Yeah,
we need them. It's just I know how badly. Like, the Carney style was back then. So he got mistreated. So there's a little bad taste in my mouth, like when you mess with a good person. So like if someone's a genuinely good person and you just mess with them and do bad things, like that's just like, you're a really, really bad person in my mind.
Exactly. There's a need for more genuine people in the world, I think.
It's so hard. You got a sea of rocks. You just got a field of rocks, and you got a freaking... all of them are bad rocks, and you gotta flip some over to find the good ones. It sucks. I'm trying to find good people. Well, Nathaniel, though, he's been a good person since day one.
He seems to be very supportive. The fact that he's willing to drive you in the van and get you places and be supportive.
Well, that's the craziest thing is, like, we kind of trauma bonded. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, definitely. Like
once, like when I literally am squatting in a vehicle and shitting in a cup and making eye contact with someone saying, please make sure no one comes around here because you're homeless and you're having sun poisoning diarrhea because you're, like, it's not funny. And then someone's like handing you wet wipes. That's like personal shit, Yeah,
exactly. That's you're really crossing the, I want to say crossing the line. That's a negative connotation, but you're definitely in trauma bond. Yeah, because there's no, if you notice, there's no racism or sexism in a foxhole. When you're soldiers together, one of my favorite movies, Full Metal Jacket, you've got this white guy played by Daniel Baldwin. He's named Animal, and then there's a black actor that's also a soldier, and they say some real racist stuff between each other. But then when the combat happens, they're brothers. They're for each other. And it's one of those things where I think a lot of times people don't realize that what really matters. You know, a lot of times we get caught up in the pettiness and this and that. But when you're really in trouble, it's so much to have somebody that you can lean on or somebody that can help you.
It's so funny because Nathaniel comes from a different background. He's an Appalachian hillbilly, you know, like he comes from a completely different background than me. And, but yet we're like soulmates, so to speak. Like we always make the joke, like I don't believe in marriage, but the best way to explain our relationship, especially after trauma bonding with the experiences we've had with our toxic families, or trauma bonding with the toxicity of wrestling, or trauma bonding with our sacrifice we did for wrestling, or trauma bonding during my CRPS undiagnosed, to trauma bonding with, I just got diagnosed, and how we've been handling it. He became my caregiver, you know, like dead ass. He's my caregiver. He's the person on the paperwork that when I die, he has my body. Like he's the person.
I gotta ask through Nate, through you. I learned the difference between hillbilly and redneck because of the show Ozark. I don't want to ever make that mistake.
You know that? No. Do you know Ozark? What is that?
I know the show, but I never watched it.
What is that?
Yeah, it's a show. Okay, it's a show about like was Jason Bateman and his family end up in the Ozarks they basically run a drug smuggling operation through this town. And there's the poppy field. People that own the poppy fields are as this family of hillbillies. And there's a scene in the first season, spoiler alert, where the drug lord from Colombia comes up to inspect the poppy fields. Things are going well, and then he calls her a dumb redneck, and she shoots him because he said redneck, not hillbilly. So that's
awesome. See, like I've noticed it, like the rednecks are more so like country, and they're like Indiana, Ohio, in central Kentucky farmers, and then you got the Appalachian in the mountain hillbillies, and towards West Virginia, and that's definitely Yeah, definitely. Like Nathaniel compares it to the difference, like such as like how different the Cajuns in Louisiana are. So like you got the swamp Cajun, like cool, like that accent, and then you got the Appalachian hillbillies. And man, I stuck out like a sore thumb out there. That was crazy, but I got out alive. Nah, there's some really good people out there. Really cool culture, beautiful land, and Nathaniel's from there, so they must be okay.
Traveling around, do you find people have much more in common than they are different, or is it?
Totally. There's shitty people all over and good people all over. There's different. You know, everyone has different names for God. They have different upbringings, but we are all the same. There's good people, and what? The accents just changed, and it's just the different accents, but everyone's the same. There's good people, there's bad people, and that's the best way to explain it, because like I've lived in about every state basically. I've traveled my whole life. I've went to multiple different high schools, multiple different middle schools, multiple different elementary schools, and then now with my college, and then going into wrestling, which is my other form of college, and then now being sick. I've been all over this country, and I noticed that wouldn't you agree? Yeah. Like, how would you describe it? Just different accents?
Yeah, that's it. Everybody's the same.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what color or race or religion.
Yeah.
Everybody's the same. It's just the accent.
You can hear Nate, right?
Yeah. Different accents.
I assumed, and I was like, wait a minute, you can't hear his answer.
It's faint, but we can hear him. It's with different accents, and sometimes different tastes in food. Yeah, there's
Have
always.
You noticed that? Yeah, different tastes in food, and what have you noticed? Do you agree?
Yeah, because I'm similar. I'm a military brat myself. I've lived in I've lived in Japan, Iceland. I've lived several different states.
Oh wow, different countries and stuff.
Yep.
Great.
It's like you said. There's every community's got an asshole. It does seem like, or it's kind of like every village has an idiot. What's
Yeah.
interesting with social media is kind of giving all the village idiots everywhere a chance to bond.
Unfortunately, that's why you just don't read the comments. But then you understand kind of from secondhand experience of PTSD then.
Yeah, because it's always been it's hard to then up and leave and make a whole new set of friends and to meet new people and to move around. It's definitely a culture shock. And do you think that how much do you think your upbringing, like you said, you moved around a lot as a kid, how much of that kind of prepared your mindset for what was to come later on?
Well, with wrestling, definitely prepared me because I was in dance competitions. I was in, like, my background was I have an elder sister. She's on the dance team. She's 4 or 5 years old. So that means I'm a 2-year-old that can sneak around the rules and get on the team. So I've been on the teams when you weren't allowed on the teams. My parents really forced us into sports, and which I was thankful for. So at the age of 2, I was actually, and this was the 90s, guys, I was actually involved on the basketball team my sister was on the t-ball baseball team that my sister was on, the cheer team that my sister was on, what else? Dance, when so young, you were allowed, like, tumbling, like gymnastics, jazz, and tap, and ballet. But then when you reach the age of, like, 7, we're allowed to up things. So along with basketball, softball, I was allowed to add volleyball. And then I, instead of just doing, like, 5 different dance lessons, I ended up doing 12 at one point.
Cool.
Yeah, and, like, the way the dance lessons are, you practice your dances, like, twice out of the week. And then by the end of the school year or whatever, like, it was the spring, you had a big recital. And then the best of the best got rewards. But then the best of the school got sent out to these huge competitions where I would have to travel and go to, like, Georgia and be at these huge big dance competitions where they have these huge screens up and you're competing against the best in the country. And this is me as, like, a 7-year-old kid, and I'm like, this is crazy.
Like, whoa. But did that kind of prepare you for, the showbiz
wrestling,
of wrestling,
And then growing up in theater, like, one of my first roles was at a local church. I was an infant, and I played baby Jesus because of my hair.
Right?
Because of my natural hair.
Yeah, you're like, hey, this works. Well, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, so I downgraded, though, because once I got older and could read, they, instead of I couldn't fit in the manger anymore, or the cradle, so they had to downgrade me to an angel.
You got demoted.
I didn't play the devil, Nate. I went from baby Jesus to an angel. Speaking part, thank you very much.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna have you play the devil this time for no reason.
For no reason whatsoever, bitch.
Yeah. Now we talked a lot. We definitely the wrestling side of things, but I also noticed and we've talked about on the Spotlight podcast about the horror movies and some of the movies that you're getting into. I noticed behind you.
Are we going to talk gimmick or are we going to talk movies? Which one?
We can both.
Let's just brush over the gimmick really quick then.
Yes.
So guys, my wrestling gimmick that Nathaniel and I. Okay, so guys, you don't know this, but so out at Rikishi's, and this isn't a bad thing. Like, Rikishi, this was 2016 into 17. And Rikishi is all about gimmick. He wants to put gimmicks on all of his kids. And, okay, so it's good. So Rikishi's all about his heritage and stuff. So he does the Samoan gimmick, and all of his Samoan kids do the Samoan gimmicks. And so when Nathaniel showed up, they wanted him to do, like, a hillbilly Appalachian Mountain gimmick, Yeah. And he kind of stuck with that, And then, they even had this guy out there named Dragon, and he did his culture from China gimmick. So with me, they're like, okay, you need to do a Native American gimmick. And I'm just like, well, I'm a little too mixed for that, I feel. I was like, I respect it and I can do it. But I don't want to give up my Black Dahlia gimmick. And they're like, oh no, you can still be Dahlia. But I really, it's not that I when you go to these places, you open your ears and you shut your mouth. You listen to the people.
Learning tree.
You listen and you just you agree and you absorb things.
Mm-hmm.
And I respected it, and I was like, okay, I'll do a Native gimmick. And before it could all properly happen, of course, I ended up getting sick.
Mm.
But the gimmick we ended up twisting was our Texas Chainsaw Massacre style gimmick, but it's actually not Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's actually not Leatherface. You think of all the, and help me with all the names, Nate, but you think of all the people in wrestling that have wielded a chainsaw, let alone...
Kirshner was the first Leatherface.
Yeah, speak up, Nate, so they can hear you.
Kirshner was the first Leatherface.
Yeah.
Which was followed by Patterson. And now Tony Myers.
And then Tony Myers. Like, they all went to Japan and stuff,
and
right?
And then Terry Funk was Chainsaw Charlie.
And then Terry Funk was Chainsaw Charlie. So there's a history of Leatherface gimmicks, let alone Ed Gein gimmicks, let alone just random guys with chainsaws. There was never a woman with a chainsaw. And as of 2016, just like in 2011, I became the first Black Dahlia of professional wrestling. In 2016, I became the first woman to wield a chainsaw in professional wrestling. I became the first
chainsaw queen.
I became the first ever female chainsaw queen in professional wrestling, and I was just like, man, this is actually original. This is so cool. This is awesome. So I'm the first female to do it, and then I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, we've been perfecting the gimmick because we bow down to the people that have done the Ed Gein gimmick. We bow down to the people that have done the chainsaw gimmick. We bow down to the people that have done the Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre gimmick because it's all different.
Yeah.
But we made it our own. Nathaniel is doing Leatherface mixed with the hillbilly gimmick because you guys have seen the banjo overall hillbilly gimmick done.
Yeah.
So Nathaniel's mixing his Appalachian heritage, the stereotypes, with Leatherface Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but also we made it our own to where we're actually the first ever urban legend gimmick in professional wrestling, urban legend hunters. And what I mean by that, guys, is you hear these different cryptid zoology like Bigfoot.
So you're hunting Mothman, or you're hunting.
Yes.
So we're
not Leatherface. We're actually urban legend hunters. So the human flesh, Leatherface or Ed Gein. Yes and no. We heard an urban legend of this serial killer out in Mississippi. So we went and skinned them and got them. We heard of this urban legend of this other person. So we got them. So we were urban legend hunters. And if Nathaniel has it, Nate, well, we'll bring him out some other time, but we have alien masks that we hunted down and killed.
Yeah.
We have Bigfoot. We have Mothman. We're going to get a Wendigo. So we're actually the first professional wrestlers to do a Wendigo, urban legend, cryptozoology gimmick, and it was never done before. We've been doing this since 2016.
This gimmick has got Netflix series written all over it. Those cryptid hunters.
Like, imagine for the past 7 years of me not being sick and us just doing this. Like, it would have been so huge. And now there's other people trying to do chainsaws, whether they're females or not.
But not your gimmick, though. Your gimmick is you're hunting the cryptid.
Different. But also, where I just mentioned her, there's another chainsaw queen now. And she actually, a lot of people expected me to be upset someone took my gimmick or to call her out. And it's like, no. She's doing it differently. But also, I embraced her as a sister, and I DM'd her, and I was like, hey, I'm so happy for you, and I just want to let you know, whenever I see someone do a similar gimmick, I think money, I think business,
Yeah.
And I think it's cool someone has the same personality as me, same ideas as me. Let's do business. We can either do a feud or we can tag up.
Chainsaw Sisters.
That was my response to the second ever Chainsaw Queen. And her response to that was she went and bought one of my t-shirts, and her and I have been sisters ever since.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love that. And by the way, you can buy some of
People wanted me to hate her. People wanted me to dog her and say, how dare you steal my gimmick. No, she's my sister, and I actually plan on, probably, as long as my doctor allows it, when I'm allowed to wrestle later on this year, instead of just ballet, I actually want to work her in the spooky time of this year.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Especially around October. October is perfect. That's like, that's the best time for a lot of the. Oh, there we go.
Okay, so we have masks, but also we have the severed head of Bigfoot and the severed head of. So this is Bigfoot. We got him. He was a bad guy.
Yeah, that's why we don't see him anymore. He's dead.
Chainsaw Queen got him.
Yes.
And here is the luchador mask that we can wrestle in. And
that's sick.
Yeah.
That's gnarly.
We got Bigfoot. And then this is Mothman.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. That's some of them. And then, of course, we have the severed alien head. And I have the human flesh vest. And then and also I like to pay homage to my acting background. So I have not just luchador masks made of, like, the aliens I've hunted down and stuff, but I also have Phantom of the Opera style mask.
We talked a little bit about that in the intro. You've got that partial.
I have mask. That in Bigfoot and Alien as well.
Oh, that's so cool. I love those kind of little, like anybody could just be like, here, take a chainsaw. That's your gimmick. But when there's a whole story behind it, that's a reward for the fans that catch it. You know, when fans.
So that was like a little nod to Paige.
Easter egg. It's like,
I might be Dahlia out here, but you see a little bit of Paige.
Yes, I think that's tremendous. One of the things I love in movies as well as in wrestling gimmicks is when there is a true story behind it. A lot of times
it makes it better, even if it's negative. Let's just be honest. Like, it makes it real. So that's why it makes it easier too. Like when you're doing improv promos or you have to believe your gimmick and stuff. That's why it's easy. Like, okay, so for me, I'm a Pisces. My toxic trait is I actually love bomb people, and the reason that's toxic is because you don't need to do that to everyone, but also you don't do it to the wrong people that don't deserve your love. Yeah. So I'm not perfect. I'm flawed, and you apologize, you move on, you educate yourself, but I'm a nice person, but I get typecasted as a heel all the time. And so it's kind of fun as a performer to be the opposite, be the villain, be the bad guy. But I don't know. You can take it away from there. Sorry.
Well, what I was going to say though about the love bomb thing, I'd rather err on the side of love bomb everyone, and then even if some people that don't deserve it get it, versus the opposite of not spreading love, because I feel like we need to spread as much positivity out there and really realize we're all human. We're so much more alike than we are different. And I think, and again, this isn't I started this podcast because I wanted people to know they're not alone in mental health struggles and share our strategies. I'm not a doctor. This isn't professional medical advice. But I want people to hear everybody's stories of what they're struggling, but also the human beings that we are. But then the flip side is it's not that superficial, wide-eyed, lobotomized smile of, if you manifest it, you'll do fine. Because it's easy to say, hey, you know what? Paige never gave up on her dreams, and she's overcoming this hardship to be a wrestler. That's great. But you got to know it's not like it's easy. People don't see like
and I try to film as much as possible because I have been pitching a pilot to the one of the people, which it's on the internet, but for the Discovery Channel to do
a documentary.
A documentary, yeah. So we've been filming a lot behind the scenes for the past year, and hopefully it can get green lighted. But basically, the footage that we've been documenting is raw, and I'm sick and I'm scared, and everyone sees the hot modeling photos of Dahlia, but then who is Paige when the camera's shut off, you know? And it's, oh shit, I have CRPS. Am I really going to survive this? Like, I don't know if I'm going to be alive tomorrow. This sucks. Like, this is, and then the mental health comes in, and it's like the burden of staying alive so I can help people. Like, before we came on this podcast, I had noticed I had a DM, and I'll share it with you in private, and I might blur it out and share it in the public, but a CRPS sister that I didn't like, she's a stranger, and she slid in my DMs and she said, hey, I came across your Instagram, and she basically said, wow, I've inspired her so much. It's insane that I'm a wrestler and I have this sickness, and she said I inspired her, and I just, like, it literally made me sob. It made me sob so much because I'm the black sheep of my family. I'm in politically correct, you know. I'm cussing like a sailor, and I'm not perfect, and I fumble so fucking much, and I'm scared, and this is scary, and it's like I feel like I'm on a ship that's on fire and it's sinking, and everyone's like, "You're so brave," and it's like, "Oh my fucking god,
I'm brave!"
Yay!
Yay!
Like I'm the captain on the burning, sinking ship, and it's like everyone's like, "Woo!" and I'm just like, "Ah!" Like, everyone's like, "It's so cool that you're a wrestler," and I'm just like, "I hurt, shit."
It's tremendous. You're grinding your teeth.
And then the serious ones come in and they say, I was gonna kill myself, but then I saw you were a wrestler, and you gave me hope. And then there's other people that don't have CRPS that are like, hey, I'm sick. I have this sickness and it causes pain. And then they even are so polite and they're like, I do not know what type of pain you have, and I don't mean to compare mine, and then they tell me their sickness, and they're like, you motivated me to go to the gym today. Yeah. And I'm like, wow, fuck, why do you guys gotta be so fucking cool?
Well, that's why I think a documentary would be tremendous, because that's exactly it too. It's like it puts things in perspective. You know, if I stub my toe or something, and I jam my finger and it's hurting, and I'm like, oh man, I jam my finger, it's gonna hurt all day. And then I'm like, compared to what you're going through, I should have a smile on my face.
To be fair, though, I need people to understand whether they have CRPS or other sicknesses or stub their finger. You are valid in your pain.
Yes,
you are valid.
Relative.
And if you stub your finger, oh my fucking God, take a break, take a Tylenol and rest, listen to your body, and you'll be better tomorrow. Like listen to your body and heal, and if your body can only do so much, that's okay. What a great victory on what you did do. And if it is just waking up, breathing, going to the toilet, and then going back to bed, congratulations. That is such a huge accomplishment, and I am so proud of you guys. Just because I'm sick and I'm trying to move mountains over here doesn't mean that you guys need to too. I'm letting you know that it can be done. And the little mountains you move are awesome.
You're right. It is relative. I stand corrected. That is fantastic what you just said. It's true. And that's, I think, what's important about your story is the not giving up. Is moving forward, like, okay, this is the situation. You got to celebrate your victories.
Yeah, and I'm in the infancy on the political correct terminologies that I'm learning. I'm educating myself on the fly, so, you know, I'm growing and learning every single day. But the reason I know that truth that I just spoke is because so many people have approached me in a good-hearted way. I'd rather have them do this than I say I have CRPS. I educate them on what it is, and then they get silent and ignore it. That's disgusting.
Yeah.
But I'd rather have them do this. But still, when people approach me, that actually love and respect me, and they say, "Hey, man," or they're like, "Man," absentmindedly, they're just like, "Man, I sprained my ankle the other day, and my foot hurts today at work. God, I hate this." And then they're like, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." And then they're like, "Oh." And then whether it was a foot thing or whether it was just a pain thing, like they sprained their back in the gym, like Nate sometimes even has done this, and other people do this, and they're like, "Man, I just sprained my back in the gym, and God, I'm in so much pain." And then they go, "Oh," and they're like, "Oh no, I'm so sorry." And it's like, obviously it's not as bad as you. And I'm like, "No." So this is what I say to everyone. My response to that is, you're allowed to be in pain around me.
Yeah, I was going to say something like that, isn't it?
I can't help but get a smirk on my face, and like, you're allowed to be in pain around me, and I like to hear your pain, not because I'm a fucking weirdo, but because I want to help you. And
in the ring, I like to inflict pain.
It's like I fucking masturbate to other people's pain.
Well, I mean, it's interesting too. It leads me to ask you: do you still get like how do other situations affect, like if you stub your toe or you hurt your finger? Do you still experience like does pain in other areas still affect you? Like if you bite your tongue or something like that, is it relative, or is it nothing compared to what you're going through, so it doesn't really matter?
Right. It's difficult to talk about, but sometimes when I experience things, I'm just like, "Oh, that was weird, but that wasn't my feet."
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of like the verbiage I use. I use my own terminology. Like, to survive, a lot of people don't understand. Imagine experiencing cancer and you have every single symptom of this disease, and no one tells you, "Hey, you have cancer, let's treat it." So for 6.5 years up to my diagnosis, I had my own verbiage. It was in the way that Nate and I would communicate. It was like we created our own language, and it was English we were speaking, but it was the verbiage I would say, like for example, like, "Oh, Paige, you sprained your hand in the gym. Is it hurting?" And it's like, that hurt, but it wasn't my feet. Mm-hmm. And that, like, but before being diagnosed, this language we would come up with, I was describing. Okay, so say this thing that happens with CRPS. There's one long word for what I'm about to describe. So you got you know what CRPS is, and then one of the symptoms is this, and it's a big scientific word, and then it has the big definition, right?
Yep.
Before being diagnosed, take away this big word, and then this big word, and say there's 10 big words that describe things. I would sit here organically, not say CRPS, and not say this big word, this big word, this big word. Take all that away, and you're left with these big paragraphs. I would be describing that word verbatim to you. And I say this with a little anger, because, and it's not the doctor's fault, but like I said before, I left no stone unturned. I went to every single type of person. I did every single type of surgery. I did everything I could. And with each surgery, with each prod, it would spread up my leg. And now it's up to my knees. And that's not fair, but it wasn't their fault. They didn't know. But imagine experiencing a pain, and every time you think you're going to be pain-free because the doctors put false hope in you, it starts to spread. And you're like, no, like it just goes. It just, like, it's maddening, and there's no words for it. And I'm like, why is it in another place now? What's going on? Like, this hurts me. Like, what is happening? Doctors are hurting me.
How did the COVID lockdowns and and a lot of the COVID, not necessarily getting into any details, but I mean, how did the COVID lockdowns affect you? And there seems to be, as well as there's a mistrust in media, there seems to be a lot more mistrust in the medical community and like with doctors and whatnot. How has that affected you in what you've gone
I have
through?
had a lot of mistrust, but also I have found my own, what I call my angels, and it's the people that have saved me. So it's a 50-50 for me. But during COVID, I ended up getting it the first year, and it was bad because where I have CRPS and I have forms of anxiety, asthma, I don't know the correct terminology for that, but I have a breathing condition, and then having CRPS and being already in a weak state, I almost died having COVID. And it almost took me out because, when you got to think the statistics, when COVID came out, it went after the elderly and the sick.
Mm-hmm. If you get compromised, yeah.
Yeah, when you're in a weak state, it gets you. And that's like, it went after the elderly, the children, and the sick. And I was one of them. And Nate helped me, and I survived, obviously. And, but during that time, I had taught myself how to walk again. I had gotten out of the wheelchair. Being in that wheelchair, I got fat as fuck. Like being injected with steroids, orally and physically, and then not being mobile for nearly 3 years, I put on 100 pounds. And after learning how to walk again organically, to the point where I stayed in the gym for 10 hours every single day just to get back to my shoot job, I lost 100 pounds.
Good for you.
I lost the 100 pounds. So then that timeline set, as soon as I learned how to walk again, as soon as I lost the 100 pounds, I'm still experiencing this chronic pain, but it seems to have lessened a little. That's cool. Maybe I need to build a callus, even though it's taking years and doctors can't figure this out. All right, I'm back at my shoot job. I'm ready to work a 10-hour shift. COVID-19 happens.
Oh.
So COVID happened, and I actually was speaking to a local trainer, Cody Hawk, and go on, Nate.
He trained L.A. Knott, Sammy Callahan, and John Moxley.
John Moxley and Sammy Callahan?
And LA Knight.
Yep.
Nice.
So this guy is legit as fuck. I actually had him on my podcast.
He's the trainer of stars.
Yeah, he's just the trainer of stars. And this guy, before we knew it was CRPS, we just knew there was something wrong with my feet, and my feet hurt really bad. That was that was my terminology back then. I was like, I don't know. I just got hurt and I never got better. I'm hurt the rest of my life. I never said sick, but we did say it's like I'm disabled the rest of my life. Like I never got better, and it hurts really bad. And this guy looked at my resume, listened to my truth, and he literally, this is like the first time I had met him. And he's like, kid, I'm going to finish up your, he's like, I'm going to brush up on your training, and you're going to come here, and for free, I'm going to make sure you get back in the wrestling ring. And
that's awesome.
And I was like, yes. So I went to another doctor. This is like at that time, it was probably like the 13th doctor I went to, and she was a really good person, but she suggested nerve surgeries. And she's like, you shouldn't be in chronic pain. She said, I don't understand this. She's like, I don't know if the previous surgeon messed up on your muscles, but I'm going to fix you and you're going to wrestle. And I was like, heck yeah, I got Cody Hawk. Heck yeah, I've survived COVID. I lost 100 pounds. I taught myself how to walk again. I accepted I was going to be in pain the rest of my life. And then I was told that there's these surgeries that could fix me. So I took the time to step away from Cody, and I ended up doing the surgeries, and it spread. So, I don't want to cry, because it sucks, because what if that doctor knew about CRPS? What if she freaking knew? It wasn't her fault. But if she had known, then I would have just got back in the ring 2-3 years ago and would have been wrestling this whole time. We would have known about CRPS, and maybe I'd be in readmission and not so traumatized. Because I'm telling you right now, at that point, I had been sick for like, 4 years? But the next 2 were pure hell because I lost my mind. I trusted another doctor that poured honey in my ears. I'm suffering for 4 years, the most painful pain I've ever experienced. I fought so hard to get out of that wheelchair. I fought so hard to lose that weight. I fought so hard, not understanding why I was in so much pain. I went back to my shoot job. I paid my own bills just to be told, hey, you don't need to be in pain. I can help you. Believing that, and then being put back, basically back in that wheelchair. And I'm like, no. And like, I almost killed myself. It was bad. If it wasn't for Nate, if it wasn't for my little fur babies, I wouldn't be here. And it was so scary because I'm just like, all my hard work, what happened? Why is it up to my knees now? I was like, why? And my doctor said she just didn't know. She's like, I don't know what's going on.
Do you believe in divine intervention and things that because it sounds like, I mean, this terrible, horrible thing has happened to you, and it's gotten worse. But you're telling me about these people that are DMing you about, wow, you know, the inspiration, and you know, to think about how many people out there may be suffering from CRPS and don't know about it and might be preparing the same thing. I mean, you're in a unique position where you can continue with platforming and raising awareness about it. And I'm not saying that this happened to you because of this, but
it's so cruel because it does appear that way. It's so cruel because why do I have to spend my life helping people when I just don't want to be in pain? You know, that's selfish. It's like, I'm not a Disney princess. I'm fucking human. I'm not the superhero. There's no superpowers that came with this. Like, I might have to do superhero things, but I'm still mortal. I'm still human.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, it does appear that way. And my doctor actually said this, and again, I'm protecting her because it's very inappropriate, I guess some people could say, but she held me and said, like, I believe you went undiagnosed for so long for a reason. And I'm just like, I survived to be the whistleblower?
Gee, thanks.
Fuck. Like, it's not fair. And the thing is, then I get so self-conscious, and then imposter syndrome, and it's like, I'm literally like the goth chick. I'm not the next candidate for presidency. I'm not the person you Google so your kids could be like, hey, here's the inspiration. I'm not John Cena Make-A-Wish. I'm literally like I'm like Queen of the Damned over here, you know? Heavy metal. Like, I'm not, I don't know why God chose me for this. Fuck, he chose wrong.
No, I think the thing is this, it kind of is in the lines of the best leaders are the ones that don't want leadership. And sometimes the best people to be a true proponent of stuff are the ones that don't want to be that person. Because there are people out there that they do things for narcissistic reasons.
Oh, and, so gross.
You know what I mean, though? Like, I don't know if you've heard about the lady that she filmed herself making her own birthday cake because she's now she's alone. And
I just read that, but I learned it like everyone else learned it. I saw her video first, and Nathaniel, you haven't heard of this.
Yep.
Listen, so this woman did a sob video of her making her own birthday cake because she's a single mom.
She's crying the whole time,
and has sad music, and she got a lot of sympathy. And they're like, God, what a piece of shit her ex is, you know, you're a single mom. I saw that like a couple days ago. Her ex actually just got on TikTok and responded, and her ex actually said that he has and he showed the paperwork. He has full custody of his kids, and that she's a piece of shit of a mom, and she's been arrested, and she owes like $22,000 in child support, and she's like gaslit and manipulated another man and stole like $1 million from him.
Yep. And there's like, you can see, if you go back, you can find some of her old TikToks where she was having like a girls' night out, and her husband was like, she was making fun of her husband texting her. He also, like, some of her old TikTok videos showed her like making fun of him, like texting her like, "Hey, I love you, baby."
There's
and stuff like
others
that. Like, I think she shut her thing down, but you can find, if you look on like TikTok or X, there's people that have taken it before she took down her TikTok. But what I'm saying about that is, like,
she would also, apparently she would go out and party, and she's like not a good mom, and it's like, who, the narcissism in people, and wanting a pity party, wanting to play victim, lying, gaslighting, and then even in the business trying to gatekeep. It's like the audacity, trying to blackball people, gatekeep, and manipulate. It's awful. And there's even people out there that try to hold me down, and it's like, what the heck did I ever do to you guys? And it's weird. It's just all about gatekeeping, manipulation, backstabbing, and getting to try to say who can do what. And it's just narcissistic behavior. And I don't understand it. Nathaniel doesn't understand it. We're not like perfect, but we're good people, and we believe in being kind and good to people, but also it gets to a point where that can be, oh, you're too nice for the business.
Well, I here's where I think, ultimately my take on life with regardless of what business is, be yourself. And I think there is that's the long game.
People the wrong way. Rub the bad people the wrong way. I mean, like, before my CRPS, I never smoked. And I still don't smoke tobacco products. I never have. And then I don't drink alcohol. I think I've had alcohol 10 times in my life. So, like, not saying that alcohol is bad, not saying tobacco product, like, it is what it is. But I always was just like, oh shit, sorry, Nate, I got distracted. My brain fog is hitting me. Is that weird? Sorry, I got distracted by my brain fog. Sorry. All right, put me back on focus. Maybe you can edit that.
All good. We were talking about, I was talking about how sometimes you can like, I've found with social media that there are people that are like, there's a craving for people being genuine. There's a craving for people being real. And you said that it's you were afraid of that, you know, being who you are is it bothers bad people, or it bothers people that may not be in the right mindset. For example, now there's a difference between, you know, sometimes you gotta, you don't just sit there and just say, hey, you're ugly, or hey, you're an idiot, or you got cross eyes, or hey, you're this. That's different than being real. But being genuine in who you are,
like being genuine, like I
bothers fake people.
Fake. Like, you get labeled, like, fake people will project, and they'll call you fake, and then liars will call you a liar, even though you have video footage of everything, and they're commenting on said video, and it's like, what? Like, this is literally, you're watching said video, what the fuck? And it's like, liars hate being disproved and proven wrong, and proven that they're liars, and then they attack, you know? I do experience a lot of negativity like that, and then a lot of people will be like, oh, she's not even a wrestler. And it's like, I am a WWE Hall of Famer, got me in front of the whole entire class and said, I am a wrestler. I am a wrestler.
Hey, Rikishi authorized you to do the stink face, even though... gosh
darn it, take that, you haters.
And here's the thing, when you do the stink face, it's going to smell like lilacs and roses, of course. But
1,000%. And when I poop, it's rainbows and butterflies.
Rainbows and unicorns, exactly. But I mean, that's the thing too. I think that's ultimately, when, for one, there's the whole thing about when you're honest and genuine, you have so much less you don't have to constantly keep up with what lie did I tell?
Nothing to hide. Like when you're just honest in yourself, and it goes back to even the gimmick, when you project real life into it, it comes more authentic, and it's easier to cut the promos in a sense, or
Yeah,
Or
because
like my gimmick, Nathaniel's gimmick, it literally is our personalities with the
it's that
fan
enhanced
or
version of who you are. Yeah.
the cryptid zoology. It's an amplification, and then my fascination with unsolved murders, like the Black Dahlia murder, and then just these larger than life gimmicks is my favorite, definitely.
I love it. I love it. You know, it's like Eddie Kingston has always said. He's like when he cuts his promos, it's him. It's not some pretend version of him. It's him. Yeah, when he talks about other people, it's an enhanced version. But Eddie Kingston, like we used to always joke, does Eddie Kingston even know if wrestling's choreographed or not? Because sometimes it's like he's really gonna go fight this guy. But it's exactly that. It's who you are. You're genuine with who you are, and people can sense that. And it bothers people that aren't able to be genuine, that are so unhappy with themselves that they try to put on a facade, and it bothers genuine people. Bother those people, and so that's why I think a lot of times they try to take you down. Now, I will say, in defense of some of these folks, there are scammers out there. Like you'll see sometimes this guy that's like, oh, I need money for this. Oh, I'm starving, blah, blah, blah. And then you kick him down $20 and then you see him buying, spending money on something for himself. And you're like, wait a second, I thought you were about to be homeless. Now you're sitting there buying.
There's like people that are attacking people online and getting scammed. There's a fine line between someone that's never like doing that, like as in getting gypped. Then there's a person like that I've never met before, don't even know their name, and they're trying to cyber attack me and make up lies about me and trying to assassinate my character. And it's like, what?
Trying to make themselves feel better. But I also think I've said this on the Spotlight podcast. My grandfather always would say the emptiest cans make the most noise. And we hear that a lot, where we tend to focus on the assholes more than the good people. We can't help it sometimes. It's almost like that fight or flight.
When people throw rocks at you, it hurts. And then when
exactly.
You're sick, when you're ill, it hurts even worse. And it's like, literally, I'm not trying to play the victim, but goddamn, I'm the victim. Leave me alone. I'm a sick person. Leave me alone.
Well, what is it about us as humans? Like, we'll sit there and we'll read 10 comments saying, you're the greatest, you're awesome, you've inspired me, you're so cool. And then you get to comment number 11, it says, bitch. Or, and you're like, oh, why? Let's go kick rocks.
It's like, oh my God, let me just go. Like, and it's hard because then I'm in chronic pain, battling the suicide disease, and it's like maybe I am that bitch. God, it's just like it sucks. So the internet, honestly, if it wasn't for wrestling, I wouldn't even have social media. Like, I dead ass like. There's people that in the business that social climb and clout chase, and I hate the word clout, and then there's the people that are just looking to be famous and shit, and then I'm just like, I'm just a sick person trying to wrestle again, kid, and I wouldn't even have social media if it wasn't for wrestling. Like, I don't know, it can be fun taking photos and documenting your journey, don't get me wrong, and I love that part.
That's
but
different.
I don't understand social media. I don't get it.
There's a difference between engagement and genuine people you interact with. Like when I got back into X for a while, when it was things were starting to pick up and people were talking about, all right, if you want to grow your followers, you got to post 5 times a day at these different intervals, and you got to have one that has a graphic, you got one that's a poll, and they're talking about all this stuff and data.
Is that
and
real?
I'm like, I just want to like what I like and interact with who I like, and if that's but the thing is, if you build a fan base or followers, or you build a group of people that, and you're for the wrong reasons, when you're not being your genuine self, then that's a house of cards. That's fake, that can collapse at any moment. But if you're building genuine friendships and connections, it takes a lot longer, but it's so much more solid when you build a foundation of people that are genuine, that you genuinely care for and interact with. And I think that's what people like yourself, like Nate, people that I respect, that's what makes them true and genuine is that they're building their audience of real people, not this. You could go on and get 1 million followers and they're all, half of them are bots. But to get a bunch of people that are really in your corner, that really want to interact with, I'd rather have that than anything else.
It's like the saying goes, you know, like you can have 20 friends and have nothing, but then the person over here that has 3 friends has it all. Those 20 people are going to stab you in the back, and they're not true friends. So you want to have your small tribe, and I just feel like I'm scared of people because I feel like people want to harm you, but that's not true. There are good people in this world, and you just got to find them.
How were there any remnants? Like, this is going to be kind of a weird question. I'm going to try to ask it the way I want.
Give me a weird question. Go for it.
It's actually, it's not as weird as maybe we should take this, but were you suffering any kind of mental health trauma prior to your injury that A, continues to this day, or B, your diagnosis, your injury has made that trauma seem less significant? Did you follow what I'm asking?
Yeah, I get it. So yes and no. So yes to the mental health. Like I battled eating disorders. I was anorexic and bulimic my whole life. Like, what kind of 5-year-old pretends to be afraid of heights just so she doesn't have to get on the pyramid? You know?
Oh wow.
Because,
yeah, well, you were pushed into that lifestyle at an early age too.
Yeah, and then also you got to think I'm a '90s baby. So growing up in the '90s and early, I was a kid in the early 2000s, and I had to see the magazines about the body shaming, and they were gruesome back then. So imagine having an hourglass as a little kid, as puberty's hitting, and you're becoming a preteen, and you see Paris Hilton on the magazine, and then you see someone that's maybe 10 pounds heavier than her, and they're calling her a fat pig.
Yeah.
Quite literally, guys, back then, that would be on magazine covers.
Yep. But have you noticed too, like, is now with like Instagram and TikTok, they have these beauty filters. I remember recently, this was like last year, they had this glamour filter that would put this mask on women, and they would have these unattainable beauty look on themselves.
Yes, I think I've seen that. Yeah,
and they would I saw like they would have it and then they would turn it off, and these.
I think it's cool that there's these Instagram models that expose the business when it comes to the modeling world. I think it's cool when there's people that are more realistic, and I'm always neutral with it all because even I model. I like filters, but also I like natural, and I like going with the flow and no makeup. So I'm more so, when you model, and everyone knows that your skin's really not that flawless, you know, like when you pose like this, you can also look like this. I like those videos too, you know?
Yeah, know, that's an interesting take that you touched on, because it's similar to when we had the conversation on Spotlight about there's a time and place for bra and panty matches versus a time and place for a hardcore.
So I'm for modeling and being airbrushed and looking beautiful and flawless.
Well, me too.
And then the next post, you will literally see my roots and tracks, and then like it's like, hey guys, you know, like here's my spray tan. You know, like it's I think there's a healthy in between.
I think you're absolutely right. I think it's a balance, because there is, you want to be able to celebrate your body. But I think what's also important is that you said is the balance part, where there's a time and place where sometimes you want to also be able to show who you really are. And I think what happens sometimes, especially with young girls, and they like, I saw the video where girls would feel ugly because they didn't look like this filter.
Even I wish I knew this back then, but even with the airbrush Photoshop magazine covers back then, even those skinny models didn't look like that on the cover. And I wish I had known that when I was shoving a toothbrush down my throat.
Yeah.
You know, Like, so now with social media and being able to expose that and being like, hey, it's okay to do your hair and makeup and have a filter and feel like a princess one day, and then the next day you're literally no hair extensions watching Harry Potter, you know, sitting on the couch eating some ice cream. There's both truths, and they're both
exactly
cool.
And she, like, you and I are talking, this is me, no makeup, but you know, then I had my modeling days.
Yeah,
you know, I had, you know, that was
I love that.
that's for my OnlyFans, by the way. Don't, you know,
and subscribe. Cheap
well,
plug.
well, Paige, this has been tremendous.
You're
I'd love
inking it with that fucking Photoshopped photo.
Of course,
I fucking
of
love
course.
it so much. I wish you did one with me, like having like Pamela Anderson's body or something.
Well, how about your body? How about this?
All right, there's my body, unfortunately.
What do you mean, unfortunately? That's awesome.
Nah, I wish I had plastic surgery.
You know, here's the thing, though, is I feel like what's happening now, again, I think sometimes the body positivity movement gets a little out of hand because it's almost like shoving it down people's throats.
There's a healthy in between.
Healthy, yeah, I think healthy and genuine is what I think is becoming more attractive in all aspects, not just, you know, physical, but I think there's a strong desire for genuine people, genuine truth. It's in media, in politics, in beauty, in sports. People being genuine is because there's been so much fakeness out there.
Well, and then when you're genuine, everyone looks at you like a fucking weirdo. And
yeah, it's like, why are you not?
I swear to God, like, this is me, guys. I'm fucked up. Like, this is me. I told my shoot job, I speak to the CEO just like I speak to my friend that's the janitor, you know?
Yep.
Like, I'm actually really good friends with the janitor. So, like, I speak the same. I'm talking about, hey, what if a giant dick monster came at you? I literally talk to the CEO and the boss like that, and my friend. So, like, this is what you get, you know? And I'm sorry.
You are who you are. Exactly.
And I only upset the bad people.
Well, exactly, and that's the thing, and it's on them. It's not on you. It's on them.
I've learned that the hard way.
I think, and two things. I really, really hope you pursue this documentary. I also think you and Nate need to really consider a maybe some kind of treatment or something to pitch to Netflix about cryptic hunters, because imagine you kind of on the Cabin in the Woods, but you take it like this, where yes, there's all these horror things out there, but each almost like X-Files, but instead of, you know how there's ghost hunters and they're like, oh, it's scary. You guys, it's like, aren't you scared? No, we're here to kill you.
Yeah. You basically, yeah.
You know? So that's what I'm saying. It's like, I mean, that's something.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay. All right.
It's basically that's Nathaniel's pitch, and that's something that you probably will first, just like my CRPS series, you'll probably first see on YouTube this summer. Nathaniel's series is actually, we're on the road, we're wrestling, and then wherever we're at, we're actually like, hey, there's this ghost in this town, and this is the building, and we don't do that before or after the show. And then hey, so cool. Bigfoot was spotted in the woods, and once we're done with this fair show, we're gonna go in the woods and hunt Bigfoot, you know, like that's, or hey, we're going through Roswell, New Mexico on the way to this show. And we did that actually last year at this time. If you look at my Instagram, we're going to an Arizona show, and we drove through Roswell and got to go and look at the aliens. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, we got to get you in touch with Rob Zombie to help produce this, you know?
Fuck, add him to it, and I'll tell him, listen, I was supposed to be in one of your music videos, and I chickened out, so this is full circle. Let's do it.
That would be so cool.
Oh, totally. Let's manifest it.
Absolutely. Well, Paige, I'd love to have you back again. I'm looking forward to all the cool stuff you got coming up.
Have me back on at the end of summer. There's going to be a lot of cool things that are happening the next 3 months.
I'm excited. Well, for Paige, the Black Dahlia, the Chainsaw Queen, and Evil Nathaniel, Evil Nate,
Evil Nate.
And our little furry friend there too, and the giant chainsaw behind you. This has been Mind Runner, and thank you for tuning in to Mental Health Mondays. We'll see you next time.
Bye, guys.
Always remember, you are not alone. Catch full episodes every Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern